Well, today would have been Oliver Tambo's 102nd birthday. The African National Congress has arranged a number of events to pay tribute to this icon. In a short while, President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the Oliver Tambo Memorial Lecture. SABC News reporter Manqoba Mchunu is in Soweto. He joins us now. Good afternoon, Manqoba. More than 100 years on, and Oliver Tambo continues to inspire millions across the globe. What's the mood like in Soweto as we're poised to hear the President's lecture?
Well, I can certainly tell you, Kirshni, that, a number of ANC supporters have gathered here at this hall here in Naledi to hear from the President and, of course, to commemorate and honor their late President, Oliver Tambo, of course, who would have turned 102 years today. There have been various activities that have been taking place early from this morning. Of course, you recall that at Tamboville in Wattville, that's where the wreath-laying ceremony was held by the President. And, of course, he then went from there to go and meet some of the veterans of the Morogoro Conference. Of course, you recall that this event also is part of the ANC celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Morogoro Conference in Tanzania in 1969. Of course, this was a watershed conference for the ANC, which at the time had looked at its renewal and also issues of non-raciality within the party. So this is one of the celebrations in honor of that. And of course, the theme of that year-long renewal project that the ANC has launched to commemorate this is following in the footsteps of Oliver Tambo. So of course, this is all about Oliver Tambo. He was one of the longest-serving presidents of the ANC, and of course, he's been described as a remarkable and selfless leader. We heard from President Cyril Ramaphosa earlier on during that wreath-laying ceremony, describing him as really as a selfless leader who really fought for total emancipation of all South Africans. I think the same same sentiments we also heard from the congressman, the U.S. congresswoman, that is Maxine Waters, who spoke yesterday during the 6th annual Tambo memorial that was held in Boksburg last night, also praising him as somebody who had integrity, somebody who was selfless, and somebody who was honest, and really describing his leadership as exemplary. So we expect to hear some of those sentiments being echoed again, but I think more than anything, this is an opportunity for the ANC, which has now launched this new revitalization program, looking at itself, doing a self-introspection and saying that, where are we going wrong? What is it that we need to do? So this is another opportunity to reflect on the values and the ethics that Oliver Tambo had stood for, and from there to see how they can map a way forward in order to keep the party relevant and to ensure that the party really speaks to its supporters. So those sentiments are some of the things that we do expect to hear, Kirshni, here being repeated again by the President, but of course also some self-introspection for the ANC, as it's also expected to look at itself and whether or not it's still going in line with what Oliver Tambo had imagined.
Manqoba, we've had a number of high-profile speakers throughout the year, in fact, as the ANC built momentum to this day. Can you give us some insight into what they said on what Oliver Tambo means for contemporary South Africa today when it comes to his intellectual heritage and what his life means to a liberated South Africa?
Well, of course, Kirshni, I think there are lots of lessons that can be learned from Oliver Tambo. I think some of the speeches that we've heard, what has been really been highlighted is the way he was, he led with integrity. You'll recall that he was sent to exile for 30 years, and that's why he really kept the ANC together during that time. He was a person, of course, who gave leadership in the height of apartheid, the most difficult time where most of the ANC leaders were arrested at the time, but he managed to keep the party together. And so there's certainly a lot to be learned from the values that he had held, from his integrity as a leader, from his trustworthiness, his empathy that he had. Those are some of the values and some of the things that we've heard coming out. And of course, the call being to modern day South Africans to take those values in their everyday life, to help in their communities, to fight the scourge and the ills facing the communities. There are lots of issues, especially issues affecting the youth, unemployment, the issue of drugs, the issue of gender-based violence, which is also one of the issues that were raised by the speakers yesterday. Maxime Waters, of course, also condemning the scourge of gender-based violence in South Africa, saying that, it is really concerning and it must come to an end. Something must be done about it. So also the issue of corruption. She touched on that issue of corruption, speaking about the fact that, corruption is a danger to society and that, the country really needs ethical leaders and accountability. So saying that, these are some of the demons that the modern day South Africa will have to deal with. Of course, she says there's a lot of potential for South Africa, but of course, they can learn from the example of Oliver Tambo and that Morogoro conference on how they're to self-introspect and look at themselves and say, what is it that we can do better? And of course, those are some of the lessons that can be learned from the example of Oliver Tambo.
Manqoba, thank you. Coming to us live from Soweto, where President Cyril Ramaphosa is poised to deliver the Oliver Tambo lecture.